Thinking about moving to St. Albert or Edmonton this year? The latest numbers are out for May, and buyers are having two very different experiences depending on where they're shopping. In St. Albert, homes are still selling above asking price on average. In Edmonton, buyers are negotiating below asking price. So what does this mean if you're planning a move this summer? Buying your first home, or just wondering if now is a good time to buy? The answer might surprise you, and it really comes down to the type of home and lifestyle you're looking for. Let's break it down. If we haven't met before, I'm Lee. I live in St. Albert, and I help families buy and sell homes in both St. Albert and Edmonton. And every month, I break down what actually is happening in the market. No jargon, no spin, just the numbers and what they mean for you. And if you would like to talk about your situation after watching, my email is in the description below. Feel free to reach out anytime. Now let's look at what happened in May. In May, 125 single-family homes sold, just slightly down from 128 during the same time last year. Sales were off by a little, but activity stayed very steady overall. The average list price was $647,000, and the average sold price came in at $656,000. In plain terms, buyers are still willing to pay over ask for homes that are priced right and located in neighborhoods families actually want to live in. Days on market moved from 22 days last year to 24 days this year. What stands out to me is just how consistent St. Albert continues to be. Prices are up, homes are moving quickly, and buyers still are competing with the right property. The busiest neighborhoods in May were Deer Ridge, Ridge North, and Lacombe Park. What I find interesting about the list is the mix of established neighborhoods sitting right along newer communities. That tells me buyers aren't shopping by age of neighborhoods. They're shopping for the lifestyle that fits their family. And St. Albert keeps delivering that. Now let's compare that to Edmonton. In May, 1,129 single-family homes sold compared to 1,330 last year. That's a bigger dip in activity than we saw in St. Albert. The average list price was $571,000. The average sold price came in at $564,000. That's 98.7% of asking price, meaning Edmonton buyers had a little more room to negotiate. Days on market jumped from 27 days last year to 35 this year. Now, before anyone reads too much into that, Edmonton's market is not struggling. Prices actually increased year over year, from $542,000 up to $564,000 this year. What the numbers do suggest is that buyers have a bit more time to think, a bit more leverage at the table, and a wider selection to choose from. That's a very different experience from what buyers are dealing with in St. Albert right now. So what does all of this actually mean if you're planning a move? Both markets are healthy, but they are behaving differently. And that difference matters depending on what you're looking for. St. Albert continues to attract families who want walkable neighborhoods, strong schools, parks, trails, and community programs. That demand is keeping prices firm and pushing some homes above asking. Edmonton gives you more options, more inventory, more neighborhoods, and in more cases, a lower entry price point. For some families, flexibility is exactly what they need. I was talking with a family not too long ago who came in assuming Edmonton was the obvious call because they figured it would save them money. But once we started mapping out their commute times, school, sport programs, and what their day actually looks like, they realized St. Albert was a better fit for their life. I've had families go the opposite direction too. They needed more house for their budget, and Edmonton was the right answer. That's exactly the point. The stats are useful, but your lifestyle matters just as much as the numbers. One thing worth remembering, these numbers reflect the overall market. What's happening in Deer Ridge could look completely different from another neighborhood across town. Same goes for Edmonton. Every area has its own story. But looking at the bigger picture heading into summer, St. Albert remains competitive, with buyers still going head-to-head for the right home. Edmonton offers a little more breathing room and negotiating power. Both are good places to buy right now It just depends on what matters most to your family. If you're thinking about making a move to St.Albert or Edmonton and you're not sure which area is the better fit, I'd love to help you figure that out. My email is in the description below. Tell me a little bit about your situation, whether you're relocating, upsizing, downsizing, or buying your first home. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. And if this video helped you understand the market a little better, make sure to check out my video, St.Albert or Edmonton, Pros and Cons. You need to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.